It has been a cool spring overall in Door County, much cooler than most of the rest of the state. I call it a slow spring. I think a lot of gardeners call it a slow spring, which can make it challenging to be outside some days, especially if it's windy. But the nice thing about it is that things stay in bloom longer. And we'll start with one of my favorite early spring wildflowers, bloodroot, right here next to Mirtha's cabin. A couple flowers left. When it's warm in early spring, and it can be up in the 70s many days in a row, these flowers might only last a few days. But this year they're lasting much longer. Again, these are just about done. There's some other places on the property where they're still open, and there are many more of them. But at home I've had some in bloom for, I think, 3 weeks because of the cool weather. It's called bloodroot because if you were to dig one of these crowns, one of these sections up and break the base of the stem or the root, it would bleed a red sap. So that's where it gets the name bloodroot. Early spring bloomer, big showy white flowers with yellow stamens in the middle, very pretty. And one of the bonuses with many perennial plants, maybe they only bloom for a week or 2 or 3, but many of them have really great foliage, and bloodroot is right on top of that list with these wonderful kind of deeply scalloped leaves that in a shadier location like this might stay nice well into late summer, early fall. So you get this great foliage too as a bonus. Out in the sun, the foliage will yellow and die back a little earlier. But bloodroot's early, it's showy, it has the bonus of great foliage. It's really a wonderful native wildflower that's also a great garden plant. Here's a nice patch of wild leek. Some places they call this ramp, R-A-M-P. In fact, they have ramp festivals in spring out in the Appalachian Mountains. Most people here call it wild leek. It's in the onion family. Break a leaf off and crush it. You'll know that in a hurry that it's related to onion. It's not in flower now, but I'm showing you this and talk about what it's going to happen later in summer when it does flower. It comes up early before there's a heavy canopy of shade overhead. It's a true spring ephemeral. Ephemeral means fleeting in the horticultural world. It comes up early, does its business quickly, does all of its photosynthesizing, and then it doesn't flower in spring, and then the foliage all dies back by early summer and it's gone. And then later in summer, it'll shoot up a flower stalk without any leaves, form this interesting little circle or ball of little white flowers. Different arrangements of flowers have different names. It's called an inflorescence, that group of flowers. And in the onion family, including wild leek, it's called an umbel, U-M-B-E-L. It's a circular, ball-shaped cluster of white flowers. So it does that later in summer and produces a shiny little black seed that dropped to the ground. And this patch here probably started with one plant and has grown out since then. Been here many years. So not in flower now, but the leaves are interesting. Again, it comes up early, does its work, dies back, and flowers later in the summer. Wild leek. We are right in front of Mirtha's cabin, and the one patch of Virginia bluebells that we have is right here. Not fully open yet, but these wonderful clusters of bluish purple flowers. They'll be wide open in a few days. Really a nice perennial plant for the garden too, great foliage, nice form. It's not native that I know of in Door County. These were planted here, they didn't come in on their own. And they've been here for 30 or more years, maybe, who knows, 50 or 60 or more. They've been here a long time. But this is the only place you'll see them at the clearing that I know of. And they'll be perfect in a couple days. I see a patch of white trillium right next to it, not quite open yet. They'll be great next week. But this is where we have Virginia bluebells at the clearing. Here we're right in front of the Clearings Lodge, and there's a nice patch of Canada wild ginger. It's not a true ginger. I think it was used, the roots were used as a ginger substitute by early settlers. But it's a nice native, kind of a ground cover type plant with these wonderful kind of velvety, large, heart-shaped leaves. And many people will pass by a patch of wild ginger, Canada wild ginger, for years and not realizing that it's flowering. But here it is flowering right now. It flowers right along the ground with these interesting kind of maroon colored, pretty large flowers that lay right on the ground, and they're pollinated by ants. And not just pollinated by ants, but the seed is dispersed by ants, as is also true of bloodroot. The wild gingers, bloodroot, trilliums, some of the, maybe all the violets. There's a group of plants that have a seed, a small seed that's covered with a jelly-like or fatty jelly-like coating. That the ants collect that seed with that coating, take it back to their nest to feed their young. But they don't eat the seed. The seed is then discarded outside the nest, and that's how they spread around. That's why I have so many bloodroot at home, because I started with one clump and now it's everywhere because the ants spread it for me. That phenomenon of ants collecting those certain kind of seeds and taking it back to the nest to feed their young is called, it's a great word, myrmecocochory. Don't ask me to spell it, but it's that's what the ants do, and that's why we get trillium spread around in wild ginger, bloodroot, and violets. The ants do it for us. But as an attractive plant, Canada wild ginger is high on the list for its foliage, and if you look closely, for its great flowers. Canada wild ginger. Here's one of our early blooming woody plants. This is a shrub called leatherwood. Called that because you can practically take a twig and tie it in a knot and it won't break. It's so pliable. So that's the name. It's a classic understory shrub in the northern hardwood forest. You don't see it out in the open in hot, dry sun. You see it under the canopy of taller trees. And it's one of the earliest bloomers up here. These flowers are already a little bit past. They're often in pairs, two or three, groups of 2 or 3, kind of droop down, kind of a long bell shape, in a light yellow. They're fading from light yellow to much lighter now, but showy, not because of their size or their bright color, but because they come even before the leaves come out. So you can spot them out in the woods, kind of like beacons in the woods in bloom. And so they'll be done blooming very soon. And these flowers, each of them will produce a little yellowish green fruit, kind of elongated, kind of pear-shaped, by the early part of summer. It's one of the first plants to produce a ripe fruit, and the birds take them right away, so they don't last long. They're not very showy. They're underneath the leaves. You don't even notice them much. But it's an important early source of food for berry-eating birds like robins and cedar waxwings and vireos and some other ones. Doesn't get very big, maybe 5-6 feet's a big one. Kind of open, coarse texture, nice branching habit. I've always thought it looked a little bit like a magnolia, scrunched down in size. Would make a wonderful landscape plant for shadier areas if you could buy one. But they are not a nursery plant, not produced in the trade, because they're difficult to move. The seed has what's called a double dormancy. It takes several years for the seed to even germinate. They're slow growing. They don't root from cuttings for propagation. So they have all these strikes against them regarding becoming available in the nursery and landscape trade. So we have to enjoy them in the wild for the most part. Leatherwood. As far as I know, it's the only genus of plants that I know that just has one species. It's Dirca is the genus and Palustris is the species. I think it's the only species in that genus, which I think is really unusual. Right below the leatherwood we were just talking about is some wood anemone in full bloom. These beautiful bright white flowers, maybe the size of a quarter in diameter. Anemones are also called windflowers. They're pollinated by the wind, not by insects, and because they don't depend on insects for pollination, they don't have any nectar. So just all wind pollinated. And there are several native anemones in Door County. This is a little one, only gets a few inches tall. You can see the foliage is coming out. There's three-parted, compound leaf with a little color in it, now a little purple. A lot of plants, when they're first coming out in spring, when it's cool before the chlorophyll can fully develop, have a lot of color in the leaves. You see this in trees, shrubs, and some wildflowers. So this is a cute little guy, wood anemone or windflower. Here's another one of our early blooming shrubs. This is buffalo berry. Blooms early like leatherwood. The other one that blooms really early up here, native shrub, is beaked hazelnut. But this is buffalo berry, a little bit past peak, but small yellow flowers. It has separate male and female plants. That's called dioecious. Dioecious is a Latin word for two house, separate male and female plants. Think of hollies and bittersweet. Buffalo berry, too. All junipers, by the way, are also dioecious. And it has separate male and female plants, but the flowers look pretty similar. They're so tiny. This looks like it's a male because it has anthers sticking out. So this is a male buffalo berry, but they're very tiny like the female flowers are on the female plants. These will produce a small berry like a size of a small pea, bright red, early in summer, like leatherwood. It fruits early, and the animals, mammals, squirrels, chipmunks, berry-eating birds take the fruit very quickly. So it's showy for a little while, and then it's gone. Again, not a lot of stuff has fruit on it that early, so it disappears pretty quickly. It likes edge. We're on the edge here along the Homestead Meadow, east of the main road in the Homestead Meadow. It likes edge and open areas, doesn't grow out in the shade. It's a common companion with a common juniper, which is the most common conifer in Door County. It grows everywhere in open areas, so you'll often see them together. Called buffalo berry because it's one of the plants from which Native Americans would collect the ripe fruit and dry it and pound it into dried buffalo meat to make pemmican. So that's the derivation of the name buffalo berry.